How's it going? This is Noah from Spanky the Sparky. Today we're here with Brody Rutledge, out of IBEW Local 1105. Brody, thank you for taking the time, especially with your new babies at home.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but you're the first interview I've ever given, so that's pretty cool. So I thank you for that. Um, as a fellow tradesman, though, I ask everyone that I've ever worked around. I guess being an electrician, anyways, was this what you wanted to do while growing up, or was it just kind of a twist of fate, or how did you end up as an electrician?
Yeah, so I think it was something I was interested from about 13 or 14 years old. My dad was an electrician. He got into the
Mhm.
IBEW when I was right around that age, probably 14. And I went to trade school while I was in high school. So my junior and senior year was at East in the electrical technologies program. And I knew from there that I'd be getting into the IBEW once I graduated. So,
That's awesome. Do you
yeah.
think, because I think there's a big misconception, I do think that it does help having a family member in a union, but do you think that's as important as what a lot of people make it out to be, to gain entry into a union apprenticeship? You always hear, well, you have to know someone. Do you think that's fully the case? Do you think it helps a little, a lot, or is just somewhere in between?
I think it really depends on the location. So, I mean, with the state that our locals are in right now, we've got a ton of work, so we're taking in a
That's
lot
true.
of people. So, in our case scenario right now, I don't think it really has much to do with it. But I would say that in some locals where there's not so much work, having a foot in the door definitely helps out.
I would agree with that. Like you said, I think it depends on locals. I know bigger locals. Like I've heard none of this is confirmed. Like in New York and Boston, those seem to be that case seems to be a little more specific. But I do
Yeah.
think you're right. It depends on your location. Building off of that, I mean, because overall you're fairly young, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 24.
24. So that leads me into my next question. Once you maybe in the apprenticeship, or I guess more importantly after you topped out, what was like the biggest reality shock to you once you topped out as a journeyman in the IBEW?
So I mean, it was not just 2 weeks after I topped out. I took the call at ESI, and they asked me to be a foreman, and I was
That's
the only
incredible.
local journeyman on the crew. So that for me was definitely a reality check. Of like, okay, well, it's time to man your work. I'm the only local guy, so I've got to step up and do it. So, um, yeah, I think that would be it.
Building off of that, I guess that's also, if you're not in the unions, it might not make too much sense, but I guess run us through, if I guess in the unions you have or not have to be there, it's kind of looked down upon to be a traveling foreman in most
Right.
instances. Um, I guess being so young, was it kind of like a shell shock? Were you terrified? Did you go through a bunch of emotions?
At
Uh,
first, at first I was pretty I'd say pretty stressed out about it, but I mean, it's all electrical work. We're doing lighting systems, and it's nothing that I don't know how to do. So
that's
I just had to
understandable.
step up and be able to rely on my guys to help lead me in the right direction. And I think the brotherhood aspect of the IBW definitely helps out. And I get a lot of questions that are like, "Oh, do the older guys, give you a hard time or this and that?" And no, I mean they don't. They help me out every step of the way. Super respectful. I give my team members respect, and they give the same back to me. So that was never an issue.
I would agree with that. I feel like there's in my opinion there's a slight misconception. A lot of people think a lot of the older guys in the trades or older women in the trades are kind of jerks, and there's definitely some, but I think
Yeah.
overall they mean good, although sometimes their approach can be a little iffy at times, so I do
Right.
agree with that. Building off of that, I guess, have you made, or what was your biggest mistake early on that I guess taught you a lot, especially going from basically the apprenticeship to journeyman to pretty quickly thereafter into the foreman role? Did you make any? It doesn't have to be a massive mistake, but what mistake, if you've made any, taught you the most as you've progressed?
Mm, hmm. That's a good question. And it was probably my third week of going through being a journeyman, we had ran into an issue. There's two electrical contractors on our site. Cupertino's doing. It's got a scope of work, and then our contractor has a scope of work as well. We had to take some take some stuff out to be able to access some stuff that we needed to work on, and it was actually the other contractor's scope. Well, I knew the foreman over that scope for the other contractor, so I just went and got with him. Was like, "Hey man, is it cool if we take this out? We'll put it back and stuff. We just got to get up here." And he didn't have a problem with it, so we tore it all out. And it wasn't maybe half hour after that, general contractor comes through and they're throwing a fit about it. So uh, they made a big old deal about it. I mean, we put it all back and everything was good at the end of the day. But I think that one of the lessons I learned early on was going through the proper chain of command and just doing everything the way that you're supposed to do. I had a relationship with that guy, so it wasn't anything for me to go and ask him. And um, but I think that it probably would have been better if I would have went to, my chain of command and worked up through that way. That probably been the right way to do that. And I have learned from that and, done that moving forward. So
Yeah, I think that's important to note for anyone from a CWC, apprentice, journeyman, even foreman, that there is a chain of command, and if you break it, I mean, it can get pretty bad pretty quickly. So that's
yeah.
pretty important pretty quickly. I do agree with that. Um, I guess whether it was in your foreman role, your journeyman role, your apprentice role, uh, did you have, I'm assuming you've had some sort of mentor, whether it was a family member like your dad or I guess a journeyman, maybe another apprentice. Did you have any mentors along the way that kind of, I guess, gave you an upward trajectory in the field?
Yeah, I've had a ton of mentors that's done really well for me in the field. There's an older brother at a
Yep.
local 688, I believe, and I was a third year apprentice working with him, and I think that was really when I was shifting from uh, really just a apprentice to an electrician. He really made me look ahead on the projects we were doing and think and do a lot of stuff my own rather than just getting materials or pulling measurements or whatever. So I'm very grateful for my time with him. I think I progressed a lot while I was working with him. So
That's awesome. I actually actually it was my first month of the apprenticeship. I won't name any names, contractors, but I ran into a foreman that I was ended up working under that almost completely led me to leaving the trade. Thankfully, I got paired up with a, traveler. Not it didn't have to be a traveler, but in this case, it was a traveler. His name was Paul Dalton, and he changed the trajectory basically of my life. If it was not for him, I would have left the trades entirely, and I
yeah.
have zero idea where I would be today, to be brutally honest.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've
on the
had some
same,
pretty bad foremen, and I think for me in my career, it's kind of taught me what not to be or how not to treat my crew members. So
I agree with that. Building off of that, what would you say? And I guess it doesn't matter across the board. What would you say is the biggest attribute you can give off in the field, whether it's like respect or just communication? Uh, what would you say personally is the biggest, I guess, term you could use for being out in the field or most useful?
reliability,
Reliable.
reliability for sure, being reliable. If you ask somebody to do something and you have no doubts that it's going to get done, that is definitely, I think, the most important part of an apprentice, journeyman, anybody on the crew is just being able to be reliable.
Building off of that, would you say being reliable is more important than having a just like a dead set skill set, or would you say having the skill set's more important than being reliable? I know that's kind of an open-ended question, but if you had to pick one over the other as a foreman, anyways, which would you prefer to see out of your, I guess, crew members?
I would say being reliable because there's some people that have a skill set and they just, don't always choose to use it. And if somebody's reliable, if they run into a problem, they're going to ask you questions so that they can achieve the goal that's set. So
That makes sense. With that all being said, what is your favorite part? It doesn't even have to be the electrical trade. I mean, of construction as a whole. What is your favorite part of construction or the electrical side of things? And then what is your, I guess, least favorite part of being in construction or as an electrician, I guess we'll say?
Okay. Yeah, my favorite part is definitely running conduit. I love running
Uh,
conduit. All the time I'm on my tools, they put me on the big conduit runs and just roll with it. So it's artwork to me, and we get to take pride in our work and do it the right way and make stuff look good. So
I
that's
agree
definitely
with
my
that.
favorite part of the electrical trade for sure. My least favorite part right now, um, being in a leadership role, there comes a time I try to bring really positive energy and be a good dude. You want everybody to like you all the time, but being in a leadership role, sometimes you just got to be an asshole, and I suck at that. So some people get away with a little too much and push you a little further than you'd like to be pushed, but uh I guess that's something that I'm gonna have to continue to work on throughout my career. So
What is the best part of the job for you? And then what would you say is the hardest part of the job for you as an electrician?
yeah. So my favorite part as an electrician is definitely running conduit. Get on those big conduit runs, and you're really doing artwork. So you get to take pride in your work and do something that you're proud of. Um, yeah,
Do
make it
you
look
prefer
good.
like the smaller conduit, or do you prefer larger conduit like off the table bender, or do you prefer rigid, or do you have a preference, or just anything you can get your hands on?
Nope, really any conduit, man. I'm good with small conduit, 3/4, 1 inch. And I'm cool with working with 2, 3, 4 inch too. So makes the day go by fast. Get
Yeah.
get some pipe in there. So
Building off of that, since you've started in the trades, do you think? I mean, obviously, I think there's a time and place for prefabrication, but do you think prefabbing items, especially conduit runs, which I've been on a few jobs where they're bringing in massive amounts of conduit that's all prefab. Do you think that's going to be a downfall to the trade, or do you think that's just going to help elevate the trade as a whole? Or do you
I hate it, man.
somewhere?
Personally, I do. I mean, it's taken the work out of our hands, and it's like they can do it in the prefab shop, but it might save them money, but no, I'm not a fan of the prefab.
I
Sure,
agree with that.
sure, I'm not.
And then I guess kind of building off of all of that, there's, in my opinion, I think there's a big misconception where, especially a lot of non-union electricians think all union electricians do because we're predominantly commercial based. All we can do is run conduit. Would you say that's an accurate statement? Would you disagree with that? Where do you stand on that? Because I personally, when I first started, I kind of think in my opinion, and this might make people mad, I think the electricians as a whole were more well rounded. And as I've progressed throughout my career, I think we have kind of gotten away from being electricians and more of installers. But
Installers, yeah.
how do you see all of that?
I don't like where we're headed. It does seem like they're kind of building us to be rather installers more than electricians, but you know, the older guys and people that's been around the block, they're always seem to have a good grasp on the concept of troubleshooting or actually being an electrician and doing electrical work. The new guys coming up, it seems like you might get stuck doing underground for 3 years of your 4 or 5 year apprenticeship, or
I
just
would agree
doing
with
one
that.
task, and that makes people one dimensional, and it's not good for our trade. Um, so
I would agree with that. And I might get some hate for this, but I openly say it. I am personally glad that I started non-union before transitioning into the union because I did learn a lot of troubleshooting and a lot of the actual electrical side. It's nowhere near like what you're going to see in a data center, but
right.
a lot of stuff in homes, for instance, I have all that experience. And even though data center work or hospital work's a little different than in the home, having that general basis can go a long way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, do you have any, not preference, but do you find people that come from the non-union side to the union? Do you think they're valuable of being in the union? Because I've talked to some union members that are like, basically get them out of here. I've also met some really good non-union electricians that joined the union. Where do you stand on all that?
No, man, I think that, all electricians should have this same opportunity that we have, with our benefits and our pay scale. The non-union guys, I'd love to organize as many as I can and bring them over, and give them a better future and a better life, if they're not already getting such. Um, any of the non-union guys that I've worked with, they all do well, and if there's an area that they're struggling with, we try to help them uh, fill that gap. So.
With that, what do you think is the biggest misconception a non-union individual has about a union individual, at least specifically to the trades? And then on the other side, what's a big misconception that union people typically have about non-union tradesmen, in your opinion?
So I'm going to start with that second one first. The union, about the non-union. A lot of people think that those guys are rats and wormy and this and that, but you never know. Maybe they didn't know about the union. Maybe they didn't have an opportunity to be in a union. Um, you know, I think that we need to, rather than put them down, we should ask them questions. And try to build them up and bring them over if it'd be a better opportunity for them and their family.
I fully agree with that. On the opposite side, what do you think is a big misconception non-union tradespeople have towards, I guess, union tradespeople?
So I get a lot of comments on my social media about paying to work and union workers are lazy. So those two right there. Um, they'll say that we're lazy because we have breaks, and that's just that's just something that was fought for by our union a long time ago. So yeah, we take our breaks, and when we're working, we work. I mean, we're not. I wouldn't say that we're lazy. You know we just know that we get paid by the hour and we do what we're supposed to do. I mean, outside of those breaks, it's work time.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and as far as the paying to work goes, they think that we're paying hand over fist just to work, but it's we're not paying to work. We're paying for the benefits that we get, and it's oh man, I had a quote that someone told me, union dues. Well, what are your non-union dues?
Yeah,
That's what someone had told me. So what are you paying for your insurance? What are you missing out on your retirement? What are you missing out on hourly or in your tools that you have and the extra tools that you have to buy or anything like that? What are your non-union dues? What does that add
yeah,
up to?
that's
So,
very true. I don't know if you worked non-union in the past. Like I said, I have, and I remember starting out within the first week of me starting non-union, I had to go out. I had to buy all my own like hand tools, rightfully so, but I also had to go out and buy all my own power tools and making
right.
$12 an hour. It was difficult, to
Yeah.
say the least.
Yeah.
And I guess the one thing I'm very thankful for, like you were kind of mentioning, even though we do pay union dues, it's a very small amount that we pay towards like our retirement and health insurance. Um, as you've progressed or have gotten older, or as you have kids, uh, does the union retirement give you a sense of security not only to yourself but also to your family?
Yeah, for me it does because I know it might not be like a lot, but it's an investment that I'm not putting money out of my pocket into. So I have my own 401k and retirement, plans for myself that I do with the money that I make on the hour.
Hmm.
But I always have that the contractor's paying into every hour that I work that it's growing in the background to say the least. So um without my contributions it's continuously growing. So
And that's maybe not a misconception, just there's not a lot of information out there in my opinion, which is one of the reasons I want to start interviewing more people. I want to interview obviously more union members, but also non-union members. Uh in the union we get our benefits, so our health insurance, whether we have an annuity or a 401k option, pension, all that money is being paid directly by our contractors. It's not
yeah.
being deducted from our hourly pay. And for some reason, there's that misconception. Obviously, like I said, I don't think there's a lot of information out there. And hopefully things like this help expose, or not expose, but like get the word out there, which I
Right.
think is a big thing.
Yeah.
Um, building into retirement, obviously, I know from like your social media that you're in MMA, I believe.
Yeah.
So you're
Yep.
fairly active. What
Yep.
have you done? Obviously, working in the trades, it doesn't matter the trade profession, you're going to put a beating on your body. Do you
Yeah.
actively do things to not only protect your physical body, but your mental body? Because even though a lot of it is physical, suicide rates in the construction industry is one of the highest rates of all professions. Do you do
Yeah.
anything actively to try and not only keep your mind sane, but also your body like usable?
Yeah, and I think that you asked that question perfectly because I think that taking care of your physical health also takes care of your mental health, man. When you're moving your body and you're working out and you're eating healthy, your mind's going to feel good too. So
Yeah,
it kind of hits two birds with one stone, and that's something that I do. And I sacrifice sleep. I call it the dad hours in the early morning. So I don't have to sacrifice time in the afternoon to go to the gym. I wake up at 3 in the morning. I get to the gym at 3:45, and I work out until
oh wow,
4:30.
that's
So
awesome. That's
that's my early
dedication.
morning workout. Yep, that's my early morning workout. Gets a start to the day on the right foot, and try to keep my diet in line. I eat a lot of whole foods.
That's good.
Favorite meal is sweet potatoes, ground beef, avocado, or sweet
That's
potatoes, chicken, avocado. It is great every time. Never fails.
that's really good because I mean it. They say stereotypes aren't always true, but I mean you get the stereotypes working in construction that all you're doing is drinking Monster, Red Bulls, eating gas
Yeah.
station burritos, and a lot of the people I know are doing just that, and it does. It might not take a toll right now, but your body's like anything
Oh
else.
yeah.
If you abuse it in
Yep.
the future, it's gonna not
Yep.
work
Over
for
the
you.
course of 40 years, you're going to be hurting once you retire. And I want to retire at, say 58, 60 years old and still have a good, 10, 15, 20 years of good health, So I think taking care of my body young and as I progress, that's the probably the most important thing of my career. And I think a lot of young people's career is make sure that you take care of your body.
I fully agree with that. Because once your health goes bad, I mean, every I don't know the exact quote, but it's like no, you never have a problem until you have a health problem, and then
Yep.
everything's your problem, or something
Yep.
along those lines. And I mean, having my father pass away at an early age, that's 100% spot on in my opinion.
Right.
Um, I guess if you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you, I guess, give to your younger self or someone that's wanting to gain entry into the trades? It could be non-union, union, just to gain entry into the trades. What is the biggest piece of advice you would, or biggest two pieces of advice that you would give to someone wanting to enter the trades?
I would say if you're not already, get familiar with using tools because you're going to do it for the rest of your career. If you're looking at trades work, I would get familiar with reading a tape measure, using tools, and just yeah, uh,
I would agree with that.
right.
Do you, oh, I'm sorry, you continue.
No, you're good. One of the other things that I struggled with, I got in right out of high school. I was 17 years old, and it was a big mental deal for me. My first 2 or 3 years was, I'm watching a lot of my buddies. They're either in college and they're partying, and a lot of your friends they're not really doing anything, and they're out drinking every night or having a good time. And here I was working Saturdays, some Sundays, and I had apprenticeship class after work 2 nights out of the week, and it was really a killer on my mental. I was like, man, like I just want to party and have fun with these guys, but you got to look at the long term. So in
That's
five
very true.
years, what's your 5 year plan, and where are you going to be? And you got to just stay focused, stay on the path. The apprenticeship will go a lot faster than you think it will, and it'll definitely pay off in the long run.
I agree with that. With that, you kind of are leading into my next question. Do you think I mean, I think especially over the past, I'd say 5 years, there's been more of a push. But do you think there should be more of a push or advocacy for, I guess, a high schooler going into a trade or an apprenticeship right out of high school compared to college? Or do you think, I guess, supply and demand, if we were pushing all these young people into the trades, it'll ultimately be the downfall of the trades?
I think they both have their place. I don't want to downfall on college whatsoever because, people definitely benefit from that and it's great for some people. But if you're a guy that or guy or girl that college is not for you and that's not what you want to do, and you like working with your hands, you like building things, I think the trades is a great opportunity for you to get in. Union trades, especially, you can get healthcare, retirement, good wages, and you can build a career without going to college. And you'll see yourself making over $100,000.
That's fully that's 100% true. I actually went to college. I got a bachelor's degree. And I'm not knocking college. If I could go back, I definitely wouldn't have went to college. I would have went straight into an apprenticeship. But obviously I can't go back in time, and it's unfortunate, but here I am. Um, and then kind of one of the last final questions, what is something you wish people more understood about the not necessarily construction, but being an electrician? Because I see a lot of comments online through different videos of how electricians are lazy, don't clean up after themselves, the easiest job out there. Is there anything that you wish was more put out there about electricians or more respected about our, I guess, line of work?
Yeah, I think construction work in general, there's a lot of people that think that we're just dumb, muddy construction workers. And that's not the case. A lot of our workers are intelligent. I personally, I read a lot, and we're building careers. So just because we get dirty doesn't mean we are dirty, right? And
I fully agree.
as far as the electricians specifically, in the union, for sure, we're not lazy. We do take breaks. It's something that was fought for by our union, and yeah, it's um, we're all out here working, trying to feed our families. So
Fully agree with that. Uh, One final thing. Obviously, I encountered you through social media. I believe it was your TikTok, where I know you push a lot of union related advice, apprenticeship advice, just trades advice, which I think is very important. Where can people find you on social media?
yeah, so my TikTok is Brody Rut 21, and on Instagram it is unionstrong.co. I just started a Facebook page as well. It's Union Strong on there. um, and just started a YouTube too. So in
Oh,
2026, I'm going to try to use all platforms and continue to build this brand and unite and rise together.
that's awesome.